So this is about my top 3 tips for streamlining your business systems, and this is actually super important. This allows you to grow faster, allows you to maximize your profits. There's less work waste, and effectively more freedom. Also, this is where a very large amount of the value of your company is going to come from your systems. So when you build your systems, that is a very sellable asset. In fact, I believe when I talked to Michael about like what was it that was valuable about his company when he sold it, his agency, was the systems that he had. Because a lot of times they don't have the systems to do something. It's not just about knowing how to rank a website, for example. It's about having the documentation and systems around that to where you can build your team and build your business and grow your business. And so those systems are extremely valuable. So these top 3 tips I'm gonna start going through. All right, so let's see. Okay, so my first tip, and this is not one I see anybody else talk about, and this is a critical piece of how I work. I work inside inside documentation. So what does that mean? If you were to look at my my desktop right now, I have, let's say, about 10 windows open. 6 or 7 of them are going to be OneNote tabs. Okay, and so because a lot of the times, a lot of my work actually is kind of like planning and structuring and organizing, and then the actual checking off of tasks is a pretty simple process. It doesn't take as much time, and a lot of what is valuable is being able to record, I did this on this date, even like a year or 2 later, to be able to look at what was done for a specific project, is going to be extremely valuable, and allow me to grow a bit faster, quite a bit faster, and create a lot less rework. So, here we go. Let's see. How's it going, Michael? Let's see. Hold on. I got to...
Right before I came over here to get him some stuff.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, your audio.
The dangers of working out of the house.
Yeah. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
So I'm talking about my top 3 tips for basically systems tips. And this is critical. I did mention that I think this is one of the most valuable parts of a business, and that when you sold your business, one of the valuable parts of why you got the price you got was your systems. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Yeah. So for me, I was talking about how I work inside my documentation. I spend a lot of time in OneNote actually doing my work inside there. A lot of my work is planning and structuring and organizing and assigning tasks and stuff like that. And there's so much work to be done. And part of that is breaking down task sets into smaller task sets. That often makes work much easier. So technically every task is a task set. And if you find it overwhelming, you just break it down to smaller and smaller task sets until it's super easy, until it's super kind of dumbed down. And as a result, what you get is you've built yourself a documentation that you can share with other people to grow your business, to outsource certain things. So also I date stamp thing, which if you don't have to use OneNote. If you're using another form of like task management software, typically the date stamps are kind of automatic. In OneNote, I just have a script where I press a couple keys and it stamps when I do things. Now, Michael, I haven't really talked to you about this specifically. Do you spend a lot of time working inside of your documentation at all?
Yeah, so so we have, I can call it master documentation, right? And then we take that master documentation and then we break it into our project management system. So the task can be repeated and all that kind of stuff, but it all links back to the master documentation and what's going on. So we don't work inside of it like every single day, but it's always connected and always referenceable to the people that are doing the task.
Okay. Yeah. And one thing that Michael said before that I think is I've echoed as well, which is like it's not absolutely critical that you have a perfect system. You just have a system that you use and that has as few leaks as possible. And to me, it's just, this is kind of one of my secrets. I'm constantly working in there. So there's so much with what you do with as an entrepreneur, as somebody in SEO, that is more about doing the right things than it is about doing more things. Although there are steps. It's not a push button millions. That doesn't exist. Okay, let's see. Second tip, and I've talked about this a lot. Let me move my face around. Is narrow your focus. Hopefully I'm not too much of a broken record here, but I think this is just so important that I will probably keep talking about it. It's really, I was thinking about how to put this. It's really pretty much never wrong to narrow your focus from a business and efficiency and system standpoint. And I think part of what makes this unintuitive is that there are a ton of hidden costs to expanding your business focus. And one of my examples that I like to give that I've never heard anybody else talk about is what I call connective tissue costs. So I have an example here of what I'm calling like 1/1 versus X/Y. So what does that mean? That's one service, one niche, or one product, one niche, versus, let's say, 10 products, 10 niches, or even 2 products, 2 niches. The amount of costs, let's actually just say 2 products, 1 niche. Okay, so there's a lot of costs. You got a salesperson who's selling for you, right? And they have a sales script that they need to go through. And if they're serving 2 niches, there are some connective systems building that you need to do to kind of navigate between the 2 systems within your like process documentation. All right, as opposed to if you have one, it's just one streamlined thing. When you have multiple paths that can be taken, it becomes exponentially more work to build it. It's sort of like in a program, if you've ever programmed, like in software development, with each level of complexity, it becomes exponentially more complex. With each, how do I put this? It becomes exponentially more complex, exponentially more work to build even a little bit more complexity into a software process. And this is true for business. And you might say, well, I want to service more people. I want to make more money. So therefore, I want to open myself up to more potential sales. The problem with that is that you in your company have a limited amount of resources and focus. And so there's plenty of business out there, if you've done your research, to target one niche for one service to make a really big business. And you can just scale faster. And if you get to the point to where you reach a maximum with that, you can always move on to something else. You can always, you've built the systems for long enough to where it's super streamlined. Then you can kind of maybe move on to another niche or another service for the niche that you're targeting. At that point, the system's kind of already done and you don't need to really work on it as much. And so in that case, you're still focusing you still have a pretty narrow focus. What do you think about that, Michael?
Well, this is actually one of the big ones that when we first started talking last year, that, I was aware of it, but you made me super hyper aware of just how much inefficiency was going on within my business at the time. And so one of the things that I did is just kind of started rebuilding the processes from the ground up, one thing at a time, right? So, I was doing a little bit of here, a little bit of there, because we have the main company has multiple services, and I spent the majority of my time in meetings, right? So
Yay,
it's
fun.
Fun time. It's either a client meeting or training meeting or something like that. Literally, I was having 10 to 12 meetings a day.
Aye.
Yeah. So, and this is every single day was like this. And so by narrowing this down and kind of passing off some of the work to some of my other trusted people that are inside the company, now instead of me doing everything, now I just have a very singular focus, and it's enabled me to get a lot more done here in the last 9-10 months.
Yeah, and kind of like a corollary to this would be more like consistent long-term focus as well. So don't just narrow your focus, but if you're doing it over a significant period of time, then that becomes extremely powerful. Part of what has helped me was I've been doing like the client SEO thing for so long that it creates a lot of efficiencies in my business, but also in my brain. There's a lot that I understand. I have so many experiences that I can continue to build off of, and I get better and better at. And another thing to consider is sort of like the background brain processes. So your brain is constant, like when you're sleeping and just when you're riding a bike or doing exercise or whatever, your brain is kind of working on things. And if you give it a very narrow focus of things, and it's always kind of working on that and building on that, as opposed to if you have 10 different businesses you're trying to run. There's so many examples in business where people try to expand too much and be too many things to too many people, and it really makes it very, very hard to be profitable. Yes, there are agencies out there that are kind of like, they serve all niches and they provide like 5 different services. But again, I've talked to these agency owners, and they're way less profitable, way less profitable, and they require a bigger team, and it takes a lot longer to build that sort of system. So keep that in mind. Again, this is super important, and a lot of people fight me on this, and I actually fought myself on this a little bit. But I have had somebody told me was like, even just going from 1-1 to like 2-1, where you provide services to 2 different niches, is pretty substantial in your business. And it's not that you can't do it or that you shouldn't at some point do it, but especially if you're starting out, you only have so much time and energy, and there's so many things already for you to learn that you should probably narrow your focus. I know it's hard, but it's something that's going to really make you more powerful, more effective. Okay, let's see. Number 3. So this is another thing. I don't know how much I've talked about this, but kind of a team systems focus. So this is. Oh wait, let me move your face, Michael. Your face is in the way. How dare you get in the way of this wonderful verbiage here. One thing that I figured out a long time ago that I think has been really helpful, and it's kind of hard to get people into this mindset that you hire, but eventually they if you keep reemphasizing and you talk about it enough, it gets in there. And part of that is also building training, but emphasize the importance of systems building to your team. So emphasize that this is a hugely valuable part of your business, and it makes them more valuable to you, and therefore maybe they can get raises or bonuses or something. And so part of that is creating systems, building training. Part of that training is emphasizing, shoot a training video, like, this is super critical. This is a super valuable part of what you do. It's not just finishing the task. It's documenting and tracking and organizing over time and building the systems so that, when it's done, it's not just done. We have a record of it, of exactly what you did. And that helps you, and that helps me, and it helps everybody, and it helps us grow. And so what ends up happening is they build out the documentation for you, and because you're gonna need, as a business, you're gonna need a lot of documentation built. And if you're gonna plan on doing it all yourself, a lot of it you will need to do, but if you can have help from other people, that's gonna be huge. What do you think about this, Michael?
That is one of the first things I instituted. So I've been drilling this in from day one. Is the person who does the work every single day has the ability to suggest updates on it, right? So the only thing on here is, as your team grows bigger, there just needs to be some checks and balances on who's actually allowed to make changes to the system. Because if you have the track record of it, but they're just not aware of it, they may not know that you've already tried that in the past and it didn't work, or it's not suitable for your business for whatever reason. And even though it's a good idea or a good thing, it's just not the right fit for what you do.
Sure.
So that's the best part about having the track record of stuff that you can reference back to.
Yeah. So part of that is, I think I want to distinguish between documenting your actions and making permanent changes to future systems that you are working on. So yeah, obviously you wouldn't want somebody just coming in to be like, all right, here's how you do this SEO, who doesn't have any experience with SEO. But you do want to emphasize to them how important it is that they document that, and it's going to help them grow. But also at some point, when they're experienced enough, then you can let them build out new things, and that's totally legitimate.
Yeah, and actually one of the first videos that I have the people that work for me watch is actually a video on how to build out the system, the documentation on it.
Yep. That's
So,
yeah. That's exactly what I said. So that's in that he didn't come up. He didn't come up. He came up with that before we started this. So it's super important because again, this is like you think about like what makes a business valuable. And yeah, the customer list is valuable, and assets are valuable, and the biggest asset is going to be probably your systems in most cases. Yeah, there's some things, some cases where it's maybe not the biggest, but it's always going to be a very, very large asset to a business is going to be the systems. And so getting your team, your team is there to help you build your business, right? So they should be building the systems. And even documentation of somebody who's new at something, of what they did, is going to be part of building systems, because you have a record of things that happened and you can see how result, even if they did it poorly, you can still point to it in a training later and say, this is a mistake that was made and here's how you can do it better. Here's a way in which you might think to do it, but don't do it. Don't do this. Stuff like that can be helpful. So, well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. So, any last thoughts on any tips that I missed that you think are really important to here? I'll bring you to the kind of like the first my great picture here in order to save time and money. Very efficient. Just put the coffee right into the toilet.
yeah.
Do you have any other tips or anything you'd like to add on top of that, Michael?
Yeah, really when it comes down to like building your systems, it's a very daunting process, right? It really can be. And I find it since I started what was just me, like the hardest part to get to getting somebody else on board or anything else like that was having that documentation in place that I could have that McDonald's effect of, I know exactly what's going to come out on the other side. So I tend to focus on the service deliverability first. If you're just that one-man show, right? Having how you are going to deliver your service documented, and whether you're having your contractors or VA document that process, making changes to it, that's fine. Whether you do an overall process and then have them fill in the gaps, that's also good. And then the second types of processes to kind of focus on is on your growth. Like, how are you going to bring in client acquisition stuff all the time? Because if you know how it's delivered and you're confident in your delivery and you already have somebody lined up for it, then you can focus all your time and energy on building or selling the services, and then knowing that the other side is taken care of.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what we got today. So thank you very much. And if you're watching on the replay, let us know, make a comment, and we'll do our best to answer it. And have a great day. Thanks. Bye.